Yeah.
A very good evening to everyone watching us live on YouTube. ICSI has taken a new initiative with uh, LMP Education Trust. The founder of LMP Education Trust, Professor MM Panzer. And this particular initiative that we have taken, we are piloting it with Northeast India youth, and especially the girl power, the women empowerment theme when we are saying. And we want to have this idea of what our world is going through, that is education with technology, and what we have told is flip learning. So we have taken this kind of an experiment with the students, and uh, uh, we are very thankful to Professor MM Panzer, who has designed 1 month program with these students, and we have named it as learning how to learn. And this is an initiative wherein this program is completely complementary for all the students, the 96 students, those who are participating in this program. And week by week, they are getting all the study materials online only. There's no classroom, there's no physical interaction, but everything they will be getting on WhatsApp. So this program has been started from 4th of April, and this is the first week that the students have got all the study material. And now it's a Saturday, and Saturday, as we have dedicated the Saturdays for Northeast India youth empowerment. So this particular day is dedicated where whatever they have studied in the entire week, they have to discuss their queries, their opinions, their viewpoints, the questions with Professor MM Panzer. So here I'm going to present not only the eminent personality, Professor MM Panzer, the educationist, a very renowned person, and with all due respect, he is the program director also, as he has planned everything, and he is presenting in a very, very effective and in a very meticulous manner. I'm here to give a brief platform to all the students. Those are on the Zoom with Professor Panzer, and we are fortunate that we can see, we can hear the interaction, the conversation of students and Professor MM Panzer, and we as an audience, as a viewer, can also learn some key points of this topic through this webinar. So let's just begin this journey, this webinar, and got to know learning how to learn, an important 21st century skill. Few slides to tell you more about this program, and then we'll straight away goes to Professor MM Panzer. As I've told, this is a joint venture between ICSI and LMP Education Trust. It is completely free of cost certification-based program, because all these students, after the completion of 1 month, will get a certification from ICSI and LMP Education Trust. And these are the 4 basic core topics that we are going to cover in 4 weeks of April. Today we are covering learning how to learn, an important 21st century skills. And next week you will see few more topics: attributes of successful self-learner, techniques to become a better self-learner, and then 21st century learners tool. So there are a lot many things that we should know, and we need to know, and we will know together in the coming days, in the coming weeks, and in this whole 1 month program. And obviously, blended learning, flip learning is one of the way out to know many things that are unknown to us in a very simple and in a very easy manner. That's what I have noticed and I have learned. And this is the sample of the certificate that the students will be getting, duly signed by the program director and the DG ICSI as well. And this is the pilot project with Northeast India youth, because they have tremendous potential. It is just that they need a proper guidance, proper direction, and a huge amount of knowledge of how they can learn themselves, how they can become self-learner and a lifelong learner. And we also believe, ICSI has always believed that education skills, along with MSME, that is entrepreneurship, startups, can only bring Atmanirbharta in our in our country's youth. So to make Atmanirbhar Bharat, education skills and MSME. So whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And we welcome our program director, Professor MM Panzer. This particular program is totally the dedication, the efforts, the devotion of this eminent personality of education. And whatever I have seen from all the study material and I have learned from them, it has led to my intellectual thing towards a much higher position. And I'm thankful to serve for that. He is not only the founder of LMP Education Trust, but he's also the former Pro Vice Chancellor of IGNOU, that is Indira Gandhi National Open University. So we'll begin this talk with this conversation with Professor MM Panzer, and I'm just stopped sharing my slide. We welcome you, sir, and thank you for your time, sir, and sharing knowledge with us.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Chitra, for organizing this and these introductory remarks, and thank the ICSI for putting this together as an institutional thing. And we explored, with your help, a new model of education. And we have not made much fanfare about it, but this is a completely new, innovative thing, which I think is probably being done for the first time in a fairly well-defined and large geographic area. So congratulations to ICSI in general and Chitra in particular, and Dr. Gulshan Sharma for his enthusiasm in taking this on. It is, as you will reflect on it, something which is a very, very interesting and innovative breakthrough, which is going to solve a lot of problems related to the educational needs of this country. So you have already experienced this. So for the last 1 week, you have been getting a lot of content on this. And the purpose of today's meeting is to really share what you have. You want some more elaboration, some comments, something, because eventually it has to be an active situation, not just somebody telling you information and so on that you get from just watching a video lecture or a TED talk or whatever. Let me say a few things to trigger off by way of introductory remarks, and then I look forward to a very intensive and engaging session with you. There is an important thing which occurred to me that in my description, they've described me as Pro VC of ignou, but actually it is something which is more interesting. I have taught in very exclusive institutes. I taught in a University of Western Ontario, Canada. I taught in IIT Kanpur for about 10 years. And then more recently, I was with Indira Gandhi National Open University. And there are these two thoughts on education. One is that good education can only be for a few people. So you will do an entrance test out of millions of people who want to become, you will choose a few hundred and only they will be allowed to study further. Or even now in the new policy, you're talking there will be central university entrance exam, and out of so many people wanting to learn, only few will be permitted to learn or allowed to learn. Being with the Indira Gandhi Open University and having seen what UK Open University has also been doing, I have a philosophy now that anybody who wants to learn should be able to learn. All that the learner should do is to have the desire to learn, wanting to learn, and do everything that is necessary for learning. And this whole idea that in a country of 1 billion people, you will teach only a few thousand something which is useful is to me a completely wrong thing. And this is an experiment in doing that, because as you see, this model can be scaled. And you don't have to make any interest test to join Gulshan Sharma's course. You just express an interest and so on. Maybe today this is free, tomorrow there will be some fee. But by and large, anybody who wants to learn, is willing to pay for a reasonable sum for it, should have the opportunity of learning whatever that person wants to learn. And this is why technology with whatever difficulties it has. Some of you had a problem with Zoom and you were on Duo, or somebody else or Google Meeting, etc. But these are things which can be resolved. But in principle, the opportunity will be open to everybody. And what I am talking about in this month is the foundation. The problem with most of us is we are taught certain subjects, but we are never taught how learning happens or how I can become a good learner. So this program has been put into this. It has been done longish because it's not some simple mantra which you recite and you will become a learner. So there are 4 stages to it. First was the importance of self-learning, which we covered during this week, and we will wrap up now. Next week, we will talk about the attributes of a good learner. See, learning is not like, pushing something into inside some carrier or a container. Learning is a disposition. And we will be talking next week about what it takes to be a good learner. Then we will talk about the techniques for learning. So one is your disposition. Already you know the techniques. You watch any sport, any game, anything, there are techniques for it. And the better you have practiced on the technique, the better you will become in that game. And the techniques are different in some sense. And finally, we will talk about the toolkit, which you can use. So as you have already seen, there is a whole range of technologies which are available, whole range of tools which are available. What do these tools do? When do you use it? What is the most appropriate point? That is what you will be able to do. So this is where we are. Now, one of the important things is that we have suddenly entered what is called the knowledge society, information society, creativity society, innovation society, etc., after centuries of being in a different kind of a society, which was a manual labor society, an agriculture society, to some extent an industrial manufacturing society, and so on. And that is why in 1970s, a person like Alvin Toffler had made a famous statement, which many of you must have seen somewhere. He said the illiterates of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that is why we have kept this theme that learning to learn is the most critical skill of the 21st century. Even if you look at the NEP 2020.
Sorry to disturb. Please unmute your mic. I request all the students. Yeah. Sorry, sir.
Yeah. So the point is that learning, unlearning, relearning becomes the most critical thing. Why? Because there's a huge amount of new knowledge getting created. You cannot keep learning everything. And therefore, you will have to keep forgetting some of the older things and move on and so on and so forth. Now, even in the NEP 2020, very early, somewhere, para 4.4, 4.5, it says that we have to move away from rote learning for exams to learning how to learn. And this is why this is so important. And unfortunately, this is not taught anywhere. Nobody teaches. They will prepare you for IIT, they will prepare you for NEET, they will prepare you for now CUET or whatever, but nobody will tell you how to become a better learner. The goal of this 1 month program is to tell you a whole lot of things with which you can become a better learner. Of course, as you practice, you will become better and better. It may take you 6 months to become a better learner. It may take you a longer time, or certain specific things you can do that. But that is why this is such a transformational course. And that is why instead of just saying myself, I want to hear from you and talk to you about what you think is going to be interesting and important. And then, of course, again, from Monday, we will resume our things on WhatsApp and send you various things, etc. And I think next week you will be even more active in terms of being able to deal with the content. So I will request you to sort of, yes, engage with your ideas, and Chitra will kindly do the moderation so that I can respond to things which come to me. Thank you. And
thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And I would invite now students, those who want to, you should come with your suggestions, your viewpoints, your opinion, your question. So first I would like you should volunteer. If anybody wants to start with whatever you want to ask, you are more than welcome. Please unmute your mic and then you can come. Otherwise, I have to take the names and then one by one we can discuss. So who's the one? Mary?
Fastest finger first.
Yes. Mary, if I can hear from you, please unmute your mic, Pita. Mary? Sir, till the time the students are unmuting their mic, I have a question, a query to ask. That you have also mentioned about pedagogy.
Yeah.
There's a kind of a pedagogy, and then there's
andragogy, then heutagogy.
Yes, sir. So,
Yeah.
sir, if you can expand more on.
Yeah. Okay, very good. I think it's a very good starting point. Actually, when we teach in schools, we use a teaching learning strategy called pedagogy. And pedagogy is basically meant the expression for how young children learn, And what happens as we grow, the elders don't learn in the same way as children learn. Now, the big difference between elder learning and children learning is children are curious. They want to learn anything new. Anything new is interesting for them. But adults sometimes want to know what is going to be useful for them, what is relevant for them, how can they apply it, how will they become better off for knowing it. So the way children learn is called pedagogy, where you talk about curiosity, interest, and almost like a playway method, etc., etc. Very young children, it is called kindergarten, because we kind of look at them as like nursery plants in a nursery to be taken care, etc. Andragogy is now they are grown up. So there is a purposeful learning. They want to learn something which will be useful to them in what sense they see. And now, heutagogy is when somebody has decided. So you decided that now 5G is going to come. So I want to know what is 5G. How does 5G work? How is it different from 3G? Is it good for me, bad for me? Some people are saying 5G is very harmful, but people are saying with 5G, I will have huge bandwidth and better connectivity and better video conferencing to attend to my sessions and so on. That will be heutagogy, because nobody has prescribed that syllabus. You have said, I want to know about 5G. So who will tell me about 5G and 5G in my context? And this is the difference between pedagogy, andragogy, and heutagogy. And of course, the way you implement it is, of course, different. But these are the starting points. Okay, now do we have some questions?
Yes, sir.
Or comments?
So that means when learning comes with your curiosity, that becomes heutagogy.
A grown-up's curiosity.
Okay.
Pedagogy is a child's curiosity.
Ji. Chaku, you want to say something? If you can unmute your mic and ask your question. Chaku Wangsu. Okay, anybody can unmute their mic and then they can ask the question. See, beta, this forum is basically to discuss whatever you have gone through in your week from Monday to Friday. So it's a platform where you can directly ask a question from sir. So don't hesitate, don't wait for your turn. Just unmute your mic and just ask question.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, I wanted to ask if an average person can overcome their this inferior self, like to learn something or achieve something. What can you say about that?
Oh, see, you've raised a very important issue. See, I don't want to criticize the present system, but this is one of the problems with the present education system. It picks up somebody at some stage and says, you are bright, you are good, you are no good, you cannot learn maths, you can't learn science, you can't learn engineering, etc. This is against all science. Now, in the way we learn is not by using a stick and a cane to beat you with. The way we learn is with the brain. And the field that deals with learning is called neuroscience. And in neuroscience, one of the latest things is something called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity says that your brain constantly changes. So whenever you learn something, your brain changes. And I will share with you, you raised a very important question. So when I was about 50 years of age, that's like 25 years ago, I was in some meeting with a bunch of doctors from All India Institute of Medical Science. And I asked them this question, not in terms of the way you said, but slightly different. I said, can you give me some understanding of why is it that young children can learn so much, so fast? And as we grow old, our ability to learn becomes less and less. And I thought he will explain to me that same thing, the brain, etc. You say something becomes there, like, with aging, this thing. And I thought, just like you may have heard that people say you have diabetes with age because your insulin starts decreasing, both the quality and the quantity, and so on and so forth. But he told me something which is now I've also read and found out to be true, that he told me 25 years ago that you can keep learning till your last day. And there's a famous story of Socrates, which I will not say right now, but you can learn. And the only reason we don't learn is we refuse to learn. A child, and if you've seen any child, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year, all the waking hours, the child is trying to learn something and will ask questions and practice. It mimics. That's why all children learn their mother tongue by the age of 2, 2.5. For the rest, 12 years, we try to teach you the language, but you are not able to teach you. But in the company of the mother, in the environment, child learns because it is constantly practicing everything that it learns. It is practicing singing, it is practicing walking, it is practicing dancing, it is practicing painting, and the neurons get together. They say in neuroscience, neurons that wire together, fire together. So this is how they learn. What we have been doing in our education system, instead of encouraging people to learn, we have been discouraging. You say, no, you can't learn. You can't get admission. Even today in 2022, with internet available, the UGC, etc. No, only so many people can learn. What is there in a BA that they can't learn from everywhere? Anybody who wants to learn, let us say Shakespeare's literature, or even our Kalidasa's Sahitya, or Maithili Sharan Gupta, why should he not be able to learn? And this is what I am trying to emphasize, that democratization of learning, everybody has a basic ability to learn. We condemn them by telling early on, but the rate is different. The rate at which you will learn is going to be different. And therefore, we should look at that. So there are stages of learning, there are certain levels of learning, and there are certain constructs which you need. Those of you who are in education would have heard of Piaget's theory of learning. So Piaget said there are certain stages. Now, if I take a very small child of age 6 and talk to him in abstract algebra and matrices and tensors, that person will not understand. But that person, given the training of moving from arithmetic to algebra to linear algebra, can understand that in due course. So that is the answer, and absolutely no reason why you need. See, it is just like a good doctor will treat a patient. You don't have a hospital which says only healthy people will be allowed. A hospital is for people who are in bad health, and the doctors work with the people in all things, on their diet, on their exercise, on their medicine, on their treatment, to make them better. Similarly, educators should work with people who want to learn, to help them learn what they want to learn. You just don't say that you can't learn. No, you can't do science, you can't do that. You can't do. I completely disagree with that, but that is how our system has come. And you are absolutely right. We should do everything that we can to make, and this course is a step in that direction. This course is a step in that direction, that after 1 month, you will have the confidence that if I want to learn this, I will learn this. Whether a university admits me or not does not matter.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Sir.
I hope this has triggered some more questions, comments, observations.
Sankha Mitra, you want to say something onto this, what sir has told you?
No, ma'am. I'm now I fully understand what sir is trying to say, and
Okay.
I'll.
Okay. And thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for asking this question. Sir, with this question, I also want to ask you one thing, that many times we have seen when we are learning something in the classroom, we always hesitate to ask question, seeking this doubt that my peermates, what they think about me if I ask this question, what my teacher will think about me. So with this kind of a mindset in youth, what you have to tell them, and what you have, is this related with the region and the upbringing and the domestic environment in which
No. This is I will tell you, the reason is the following, and this is the worst thing about our education system. If you want to know what is the worst thing, is that we don't ask questions. And the reason is, it is based on authority. And you are not supposed to question authority. We are supposed to obey what authority says and not to question them. Whereas learning can only happen if you ask questions. Learning cannot happen if you don't ask questions. I will share with you a very interesting story. There is a very famous physics Nobel laureate called Isidore Rabi. In fact, Rabi discovered what is called nuclear magnetic resonance. If you have ever been unfortunate to have to visit a hospital and get an MRI scan done, that MRI technology is because of Rabi, who got the Nobel Prize for this concept of electron spin resonance. So when Rabi got the Nobel Prize, etc., as often happens, reporters come to him and say, "So what made you a scientist?" And he says that my mother made me a scientist. And they said, "Is your mother also a scientist?" He said, no, my mother is a homemaker." "Then how could your mother make you a scientist?" He says, "Whenever we came home from school, most other mothers would ask their children, 'What did you learn in school today?' But my mother would always ask, 'Did you ask a good question today?'" That is the point. Asking questions should be appreciated. Asking questions should not be frowned upon. And we have this thing and this is the reason why we are, that is not so developed in science, technology, etc., because we don't ask questions. You should be asking questions. And I will share with you, some of your young people may really know, Elon Musk is the hero of these times, who has put SpaceX and rocket, etc., etc. And his famous statement is, think everything from first principles. Ask questions till you understand. Even Einstein has said that. Richard Feynman has said that. Everybody who's serious has said, only people who go by authority. I am the director of education, you should not ask me anything. I am what? PGT, TGT, you should not ask me anything. That is a wrong thing. Learning is a sequel to asking questions. That is why I'm encouraging and I'm having a special session on this, because only then you will learn. If you have no questions, you will never learn. It is like, forget this learning. Have you ever been from place A to place B for the first time? If somebody always showed you the path, you will never learn to go there on your own. Only if you have tried to find the path, made mistakes, corrected your path, etc., then you will be able to go there on your own. And therefore, this whole idea of guiding for teaching, for marks, for exams is all right, but no learning will happen. Learning will only happen when you have questions, and from very beginning, what, why, when, if, who, etc., etc. These are things that naturally occur to you. We are told to suppress it, not to ask these questions, because either my friends will make fun of me or my teacher will make fun of me and so on. But let me assure you, there are no stupid questions. All questions are interesting questions because they help you overcome your cognitive barrier to whatever it is. Whatever is coming in your way of learning will be removed if you ask these questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So who's the next one to ask question from Professor MM Panzer? Please unmute your mic, and I request all the students, if you can come with your video also, that will be good. We want to see you as well. So please ask, who's the next one?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Miss Nari.
Yeah.
Good evening.
So I'd like to ask for a person who has not always been so good in understanding things or in learning certain things at certain point. It's very easy to become suppressed, or you can say it's very easy to get demotivated. So for a person like that, what do you expect? I mean, how do you think it would be?
So, answer is very simple. Just like when you go to a doctor, what does he say? He says, what are your problems? And he tries to solve your problem one by one. So if a person is, let us say, quote unquote, not good at learning, let that person either ask himself, herself, or have somebody else ask and figure out what is coming in the way of the learning. And since learning is a thing which builds on previous things, I will explain to you. Let us say you don't know the alphabets. You will not know the words. If you don't know the words, you won't know the sentence. If you don't know grammar, you will not be able to make meaning of the sentence. And therefore, this is how we teach. And that is why, in fact, I remember when I was in school, we used to be taught reading, writing, listening, speaking, dictation, recitation as separate activities. Because then only, see, listening and reading are input activities by which I get to get information. Writing and speaking are production skills whereby I express myself. In fact, I will share with you when I went to Canada for the first time, the common expression they would use for a student who is not so good or say, he's a dumb student, dumb person, dumb this thing. Now in India at that time, we never used the word dumb for it. We either used idiot, stupid, duffer, whatever, but never used the word dumb. And I was curious, why are they saying dumb? Because dumb is a physical deformity that you can't speak. And then I realized that what their meaning is, if you cannot speak, it means you don't have the background, the knowledge, etc. Because as you said, even to ask a question, you need to have something in your mind so that you can say, well, I appreciate this part, but this part I don't know, this, etc. I don't know. And therefore, as I said, it is that. So therefore, for everything, the answer is a step-by-step approach. In fact, in my present thing that I said to you also, I said, you become 1% better. Just try to do it. See, if you don't do, nothing will happen. If you try to improve, very soon, very good results start happening. And this has been seen. This has been seen throughout, that if you do that. I told you about reading, same thing with mathematics. Now, what happens is, you learned mathematics, you were okay. You could learn the numbers, you could add, you could do this. And then suddenly fractions start coming. Now, you don't quite know why 4 upon 5 plus 5 upon 7 is 9 upon 12. Why it is not 9 upon 12? You added the thing on top, you added the thing on bottom. 4 plus 5 is 9, 5 plus 7 is 12. So I should get 9 upon 12. Teacher says this is wrong. But teacher doesn't explain why that is not right. And I can give you a number of examples that we do. We teach people to multiply by 10. You can add a 0 at the end. So 14 into 10, I add 140. 1.4 into 10, I again put a 0 at the end. 1.40, teacher says this is wrong. So the problem that we have is that very often we are not understanding and no care is taken to understand. We just pass the person. Why do we pass a person with 30%, 40%? Unless the person knows everything of the previous stage, the person should not go to the next stage. It's not a matter of class. I'm talking of each of these steps. So this is what is the problem. But answer is very simple. Go back, start from where you are and work. Now you can work better and faster. Your motivation to learn is more and you will become. There's so many examples. I can give you so many stories. You must have heard the story of Edison. Edison was thrown out of the school because he was considered a slow learner. And I think nobody else has made more patents, inventions than Edison. He created a company which even today you will look for your job for that. GE was founded by Edison as the electric company and so on. And what happened is Edison came one day with a note from his teacher for the mother, and he was very small, couldn't read it. And in the note it was written, your child is too slow, he's not good enough for the school, please take him away. And what the mother did, she took that note and got the child out of school, did homeschooling and taught the child. And when after his mother's death, long time later when Edison had become so successful, he was going through old papers and suddenly he saw this letter. And he has said this, you can Google for it. He has said, my mother made a genius out of a person who the school had rejected. So this is a very, very important thing that you can do it. And as I said, today scientists have found it. They call it neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, people who are in charge of education don't really see that way. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Mary, you want to ask something more?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Who's the next one? The next student want to ask question. Please unmute your mic and ask the question. So till the time they're preparing themselves, I want to ask one thing.
Yeah,
that,
sure.
You have also talked about learning of patterns. learning based on patterns. So is this applicable to all kind of a students or to a specific kind of a learners? How it should go?
No. See, it is natural for us to observe patterns in nature.
Yes, sir.
You take a small child, they will be able to, you take them anything, you show them flower, they will be able to distinguish that this is this kind of flower, these are so many petals, this are so many petals, etc., etc. Wherever they are there, even I'm amazed, very small children are able to recognize what car it is and what model it is. Who taught them? I mean, did Maruti ever told them that this is a gypsy, this is the van, this is the Maruti 800, this is the Baleno? No, but they've all learned it. What did they learn? They learned the patterns of that car. They have no detailed specs of it, but they can recognize. The same thing if you want to do in machine learning, artificial intelligence, you will have to give 1 million photographs of that car, label it, then only it can recognize. But 3-year-old child is able to recognize that. A 3-year-old child is able to recognize various kind of animals, objects. So it is able to distinguish between a car and a truck and a bus and so on. Who told them the definition between a truck and a bus? Who told them the definition between a car and a bus? But they are able to do that. So the point is we are natural at looking at. See, the point, as has been said by many people, when we enter in a formal situation, then the authority concerned labels us with, you are no good. You cannot do maths. So you do something else. You do this, that, whatever. But otherwise, we are all capable of doing it. Maybe different rates, maybe different pace, and maybe there are different stumbling blocks which somebody has to help overcome. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So, Jaya, can you please unmute your mic and we want to hear from you. Jaya Bhusal. Jaya, if you can unmute your mic. Or anyone. Yes, Jaya. You, so, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So please ask without any hesitation whatever you want to ask, or if you want to share your views, whatever you have listened to and read in the WhatsApp groups, you can tell that also to sir. Yes, Jaya. So did you like the you have read all the views that has been posted on the WhatsApp group from Monday to Friday?
No, I didn't get too many, but tell me, is there anything specific? Because I've been following things, but I don't know which one are you talking about, but I'm quite happy to respond to anything that you say now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Anyone else? Ima or maybe Ashley? Beta, see, if you will not respond, then you cannot make a kind of an interaction or a ground setting for what you have come for. So without any hesitation, please ask whatever you want to ask or you want to share. So I request once again to anyone like Sanghamitra asked, like Mary asked. So they ask whatever they want to. So as you can also do that. So please come with your questions. And till the time you are coming, sir, again, one query that I have is, when we talk about self-learning, sir, and learning how to learn, so how can we differentiate for a self-learner, analytical thinking and critical thinking?
Yeah, so see, the point is, these are all forms of thinking. So you will also put in creative thinking and so on and so forth. So critical thinking typically is talked about logical fallacies in a statement. So there are a number of well-known logical fallacies. And in critical thinking, what is happening in the statement itself, there is an inconsistency. Analytical thinking is you've got data about the situation, and from that data, you're drawing some conclusions. And you're analyzing the data or the situation and drawing certain conclusions. Critical thinking is often used in terms of logical fallacies, that in the logic itself, there is some flaw. And I can go on and on, but this is basically the thing. So creative thinking is you're thinking completely new ideas. It is like poetry, like painting, like whatever, you're imagining something. What if we could do this? What if we could go and live on Mars? So this is creative thinking. But actually doing how you would do that, what needs to be done will become analytical thinking. So if we want to go to Mars, what do we need? We need a rocket which will take us there. It will, how much time it will take us to get there? What will we eat there? How will we grow food there? All this will become part of analytical thinking. If there is some flaw in our logical argument there, that will become critical thinking. So this is how we distinguish various modes of thinking. And that's why sometimes Edward de Bono had used that phrase, we pick different thinking hats while doing that. So when thinking of something new, we do creative thinking. And then when we want to make it happen, then you do analytical thinking, and so on and so forth.
Yes. Okay, thank you, sir. Any question from the panelist side? Anyone wants to ask a question or a comment or an opinion? So we have seen in today's scenario, specifically when I'm talking,
Yeah.
youth are very much defocused from what they should learn,
Yeah.
and they should make. So what needs to be done?
Very important and very interesting. This is today's biggest problem, actually. Today's biggest problem is because, you see, I will explain to you. If you go back a few generations ago, life was very simple. You had no choice. You were born in a family, you were born in a caste, you were born in a geography, you lived, grew up and died and had your own children in the same kind of a thing, right? So there was not much tension. You knew what you have to do because the caste, in fact, enforced that thing, and there was nothing more that you could do. Problem that has come up now, and that's why we are using the word 21st century, that in principle you can do anything. You have seen that Chaukidar's son studying on the lamp post can become an IAS. This was not possible. If you had to be a pujari of some pandit, you have to be born in that family, etc., etc. Only then you could do. Not only that, today you can be a person in some school, ordinary school in somewhere, and suddenly get a job in Google because you solve some problem which Google is very excited about. Now, this is what is now happening. Therefore, there is a huge lot of things. And therefore, the idea of from this large amount, how do we? So in technical terms, this is called a signal to noise ratio. Signal is what you really want. Noise is what is around you. Today's time, the biggest problem is the noise. So somebody will tell you do data science. Somebody will tell you do something else. Somebody will tell you do this thing, etc. Somebody will become a fashion designer. Something will say you become whatever. And now with sports, you can become a javelin champion, etc., etc. And therefore, people get defocused. So this is why it is very important to understand what you would like to be. And the job of thinking for yourself is a new activity, which earlier it wasn't. Earlier, your parents thought for you, including even marriage, even boys and girls. Marriage was also decided by the parents. Somebody decided, you got married and lived. But today, you have to start looking at. And there's as I said, there's a number of choices and you could practically become almost anything. Therefore, the answer to this is you have to become valuable to other people. If you want to be doing anything in life, you have to become of some use to somebody and possibly many people. Now, if you're useful to other people, people will reciprocate that. So either they will reciprocate in kind, that means they will say he's a nice person, this, that, which means your brand is becoming better, your connections are becoming better, your network are becoming better, or they will give you some money for something. Then your wealth will become better. Now, if you see what Steve Jobs did, he just took some musical thing which was their MP3 player and made an iPod out of it. That MP3 player already existed. He made an iPod, which was an MP3 player which people liked. He made an iPhone which people liked. And this is exactly what happens. So as long as you do something useful to people, people will reciprocate, as I said, either in kind or in cash. It will make your network, brand, or wealth, depending upon how it goes. Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Jaya has asked a question and she has written that in the chat box. I'll read it out for her.
Yeah.
So she had asked that, so my question is, what is the correct way of learning and how do we focus on what we are doing?
Okay. So firstly, the correct way of learning will be different for different people. So there are various kinds of people learning style, as it is often said. So for example, some people like to be given a lot of examples. So suppose I want to teach them something, I will give them one example, two examples, three. Another set will get impatient. He said, why are you giving example of the same thing again? Give me the principle, I will develop. This is called inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning. This is called this thing. So there are various ways in which people enjoy. Some people actually tell the other, don't tell me anything, I will figure it out. This is called exploration, etc. If you look at many young people, they don't even look at the manual for anything. You give them a new phone, they will figure out how to use it. Grown-ups will want to read, where is the instruction, what is the instruction manual, what should I do, first step, second step, but the young people will not. They will just pick out, they will throw away the box, they will throw away the manual, they'll throw away everything. They will learning by figuring out. So there are different ways in which we learn and we should encourage that. Now, sometimes it may happen that you have a certain way of learning, but to be a better learner, you need to get other things also. So for example, next week I will be talking about things like time management. You may be very bright, but you don't give enough time. So all your time is lost. You are very brilliant, but you are not studying. So things won't happen. So enhancing motivation, time management, discipline, all these things also become important to be a successful learner. So you talked about focus. If I get distracted every time, then obviously I will not be able to learn. So you need to be able to do that. And many people who have talked about this, I call it a focus mode and a diffuse mode. So this is for some time focus, then for some time relax and take a more general thing. Don't do the thing that you're coming. It will come back to you because your subconscious mind is processing it. In fact, I don't know whether I have in this course or not, but I have a very famous topic, which I say learning while you sleep. So how to how to use the sleep period. And as you know, if you do something just before going to sleep, your subconscious mind is processing it while you're sleeping. So you can actually make a technique out of it, of using sleep to become a better learner. Yes, so these are many details that we'll get.
That's why I think many times we have heard also, whatever something, if something important you have to read or learn, either read it when before your sleep or after you have waken in the early morning.
Right. So that's why we are having this session from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, so that you go to sleep thinking about learning how to learn.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So again, Mary has asked a question, sir. So she is writing that, sir, extending the last question, if a person has difficulty in expressing the things that she or he has learned, how do we learn to put that on paper, especially answering writing?
Okay. So again, this is very important. We're talking of the skill of communication and production skill. Now, you must also understand that some people may be better at diagrammatic communication. So you don't have to always put them to words. They may write a thing by diagram, like, you know, you read comics, Amar Chitra Katha, this, that, whatever, you have those bubbles on which you write text, etc. And sometimes you write, you make a flow chart, or you make a map, or you do anything. So feel free to do that. But the idea is to express yourself. Then obviously, because we speak in a language, and we speak in a language which the other person will understand. It is very important, because the language we use is a language in which the communication of our context will happen most effectively. Now, if you want to do that, you have to practice learning that language. And any language means you need to know the vocabulary, you need to know the syntax, you need to know the nuances, you need to know the idioms and phrases, and so on and so forth. And therefore, if you want to express it, again, like everything we said, the more you practice that language, you will become better in it. If you don't use that language, it will forget. Again, the same thing we have in neuroscience, as I said, like we say, neurons that wire together, fire together. There is also another thing, use it or lose it. That is why what you learned in school and high school, you have forgotten by the time you have come to college, because you're not using it anymore. You learned it, you passed the exam, you forgot it. Languages, again, is like something which you will constantly use, it will become better. So if you speak in English, it will become better English. If you speak in Hindi, it will become better Hindi. If you have not spoken in Hindi for a long time, suddenly you are asked to speak in Hindi, it will be very challenging, or other way around, and so on and so forth. So this is the point. And same thing with other things. You have to very quickly identify what is coming in the way of your learning. I can give you one example. Take, for example, a subject called chemistry. In chemistry, there is something called pH value. pH value determines whether it is acidic or basic, etc. Today, of course, you use pH value even in your shampoo and the drinking water that you have. Everywhere people talk. But the point is, the pH value is the logarithm of the hydrogen ion concentration. Now, if you don't know what are logarithms and how logarithms handle, then you will not be able to understand pH. So logarithm of a number to a given base is the index of the power to which the base must be raised in order to be equal to that number. If you don't know what is a logarithm, you won't know what is the pH, and you won't be able to get the shampoo of the right kind with knowledge. You may get it by chance that you like the packing, or the shopkeeper tells you this is the right shampoo for you. That is why learning becomes important, and the ability to learn becomes very important. So whenever you come across any such thing, you may want to learn. And today, the advantages with internet resources, you can almost learn everything, whether or not you knew it. And one of the ways of becoming a better learner is everything that you don't know, go to Google, go to Wikipedia, go to YouTube and ask. Today, in fact, YouTube is the biggest source of learning. Even in language, words meaning how to use a word, you will get a YouTube for that. And that is a better thing. So instead of the traditional dictionary where you looked at a word and it gave you some meaning, today's dictionary has a YouTube thing on whatever word you are looking for.
Okay.
Okay.
Another question. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this answer. Another question has come that, sir, does our percentage defines our future? Sometimes people demotivate or judging students by their percentage, which sometimes we tend to lose hope.
So let me tell you, this percentage is a completely absurd idea. The percentage is a completely absurd idea. Anybody who's giving meaning to it has no idea what they are talking about. Percentage means on a given question paper of that exam, out of the question that was set, how much you got. So you got 72%. Now, what does it tell? It tells nothing, because what did other people get? 72% means that you know about 2/3, you don't know about 1/3. What 1/3 you don't know? So let us say you have learned in maths 10 topics. Now, what this says, you know 7 out of those topics, you don't know 3 topics. Which 3 topics you don't know? The thing doesn't say. What is the difference between a person who got 72 and 74? It cannot say. Nobody can describe that. Everybody will say 74 is better than 72, but describe it in words. What is it that the person who got 74 knows or can do with the person who got 72 cannot do? Nobody can answer it. So it is just like, I mean, you see, the point is, you all are very modern, but there was a time when a large part of your thing was determined by your horoscope at birth. What was the lagna? If you were born in what was called Mula Nakshatra, you were supposed to be very evil for the whole family. If you were born in this nakshatra, it was very bad, etc., etc. So it is a state of ignorance. These educated people are also in a state of ignorance with respect to education and learning. They're doing something. They have no idea what they're doing. They cannot explain the meaning of what they're doing. I ask any educationist in a public forum to explain what is the difference between somebody who got 78%, 74%, 72% in the CBSE exam or any exam, and explain that in meaningful, understandable term. All that they can say on that question paper on that day. And I will tell you, there is research on educational measurements where these marks given are purely erratic. In fact, there's a very interesting book on which I read. So what he did, he took the same question paper in a subject like mathematics, gave it to different examiners, and they gave different marks. And he concluded examiners don't agree with each other. And then he did an even more mischievous thing. He gave the same paper to the same examiner 3 months later. He gave different marks. His examiners also don't agree with themselves. So what you are getting as percentage is a purely random number on that day. It has got nothing to do with any reality, and anybody who thinks so is completely mistaken. So now what do? You can do very little. This is human prejudices. This is prejudice to the people in authority. You can't help it. There are so many things which people have wrong notions about it. This is also one. What you can do is you should say, this is not the end of the world. And I will do what I can do and I want to do and demonstrate that. Nobody in the world can tell you why that percentage is absolutely no debate. There's no consistency. There is nothing. See, it is like using a thermometer which can show any temperature anytime. Would you ever trust that thermometer? So same thing, if that same person does another exam, he may get some other mark. It goes to another examiner, he may get some other mark, he may get something else. Now, if the thermometer by other people gives different reading, will you trust that thermometer? So the whole education system is completely unreliable, untrustworthy, is actually false, and therefore don't take it to heart. You can't change what people think, but
so
okay.
Yes, sir. Reba has asked this question of percentage. So Reba, sir has rightly told you, never ever leave your own peace of mind just for the saying of anybody else saying that you.
Yeah, just think of it as a random number.
Yes, sir.
Just think of it as a random number that you, yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
Reba.
sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
There is another question has been asked by a student, sir. She's asking, so my question is, what is the role does judgment play in decision making?
Answer is that there is a joke about it, that what does it say? It says like, good judgment comes from experience, but experience comes from bad judgment. So this is a very famous joke. They say that good judgment comes from experience and experience comes from bad judgment. So the idea is that whenever you are taking a decision basically means a choice between two things. It is a question of what do you do? Now, today we are actually looking not so much as human judgment, but data-driven decision making. So what you would say is, if you want to take this decision, what parameter do you want to say? For example, if you're in business, you'll say, I want to maximize the profit. I want to minimize the cost. I want to minimize the transportation cost. I want to minimize the salary that I give to people, whatever. And then your decision will be based on the data for those things. So it is not just that human intuitively, suddenly I say, I get a gut feeling that I'm doing this. So decisions from gut feeling are not taken in real life. So in real life, you try to measure the differences. So in as a person, when you're doing career, you will talk of what is called opportunity cost. So if I do this or I do that, what is the effort required? What is the investment required? What is the advantages of this thing? What is the disadvantage? And so on. And that is called opportunity cost. So for every such thing, there is a opportunity cost for having given up one opportunity and chosen another one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. This question has been asked by Sumi. Sumi, if you are there, please unmute your mic.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So, dear students, if you have more questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll have a thank note for sir, and then we will meet next week with more questions, more queries.
Yeah, I think this week would have got you into the habit of you can start asking questions. So for next week, you start preparing your questions right from day one. And Monday itself, you write some questions. This is what I will ask on Saturday. On Tuesday, you say, this is what I will ask on Saturday. So we will have a huge rush of questions, and Chitra will be at best try to figure out which question to take and which not to take.
Yes, sir. Surely, sir. In the end, your end note, sir, your motivational remark for all of us.
So my motivational remark is very simple. Try to become a unique person. Don't follow the crowd. Don't try to be like everyone else. And there is a Latin phrase for it, which is used in law often, called sui generis. Sui generis is in a class of its own. And you can do this by having a combination of skills which no other person has. Don't become one more civil engineer, one more computer engineer, one more data scientist. You become a data scientist who also writes plays. You become a web designer who can also sing songs. You can do something else and you're also an actor. And if you have 2 or 3 such skills, all of it, you don't have to be number one in each of them. Be pretty good in a number of them. You become unique. And people see value in you, which they don't see in other single-minded pursuits of this. Single-minded pursuit is also very good for something, but you are likely to have a more cushion if you can do a number of things, because the problem with single-minded thing is that if that single-minded thing is no longer wanted or in demand. So simple example, you are a very good accountant. For years, so many people are asking you to keep your accounts. After office, you go somewhere, do accounts, this, that. And now a software called Tally comes and nobody wants you anymore. So that is why it is more desirable to be able to do a number of things and be a problem solver and a creative person at the same time. If there is a problem, you help in solving it. And otherwise, you think of completely new creative ideas about how, and creative ideas which are useful to people. There can be a creative idea which is creative, but of no immediate use to people. That is also good, but it won't give you that kind of a recognition or money. But if you have a creative idea which is useful to people, then you will get both recognition and wealth and happiness and pleasure and so on. So it's been a good session for a start, and I hope that in the next few weeks, this will become even more and more lively, and we will all look forward to it. So thank you, Chitra, for organizing and conducting this. And we will meet in WhatsApp group on Monday.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for coming. On behalf of all the students and our viewers, we want to thank you, sir. And a very good evening and a good weekend.
Okay. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, sir. Good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.